Joining us now from New York is Terri Austin. And Terri, let me ask you the question. A lot of people are talking about defund the police departments, disband the police departments. Your thoughts?
You know, I think defunding is a misnomer. I think what cities are trying to do is to slash the police budget and transfer that money to other areas that will address community needs. So for instance, you're seeing in Minneapolis, the city council actually voted unanimously to defund, quote unquote, the police force. And what they intend to do is to replace that with services that will respond to community needs. And what they are saying is that the community needs EMT, the community needs mental health crisis intervention, and less do they need police to respond to some of these types of calls.
As the investigative reporter for this network, I spent a year looking at this. In fact, I suggested it 5 years ago to a station that I was working for then. And I began asking the question, why do we need police? And I started from the premise of it being a business. And if you think about it, if your house gets broken into, the police show up, but they take a report. If your car gets broken into, the police show up and they take a report. Violent crimes are unpredictable, such as rape and murder. So let me ask you the question, what do we really need from a police department?
Well, I think that's a great question. I think that we can decrease the number of services by a huge percentage. So say, for instance, there's a mass shooting at a school. That is a violent crime, and I don't think we want any other service responding to that other than a service like the police who can handle that type of extreme violent situation. But to your point, Del, what you just said, most calls don't need that sort of interaction. So I think what we should be seeing is police forces across the United States having their budgets slashed and moving those services. I think it's important to stress that the services should not be eliminated. Those services should be moved to other areas that can respond, because we absolutely need to make sure that we can have someone respond to a call where there is a disturbance by someone who might have some mental stress issues. So I don't think we need to eliminate the services, but I do think we need to transfer it and put it in the right place. Even cities, if you recall, in 2013, like Camden, New Jersey, they actually totally did away with the police force. But what they ended up doing was transferring those services to the county, thinking that the county could respond better than the police who were in Camden, who frankly were not trained to respond to some of these calls.
Terri, we have been fed a constant diet for the last 3, perhaps 4 decades of cop shows, of young Black men being thrown up against the wall, of Mexican drug lords, of terrorists. And we now live in a climate of fear that may or may not be based on reality. So how do we undo that Pandora's box of fear that seems to exist in the community, that if we get rid of the police, oh my goodness, we're going to be overtaken by crime and drugs and terrorism, et cetera?
You know, I think we have to have a holistic approach to changing the system. And when I say the system, I mean the criminal justice system, the police system, the communities. We must make sure that we take a look at the relationship between the police and the community. So, for instance, I think the police need to be educated, not just trained to use police tactics, but educated when they respond to a certain situation, making sure that they understand the psychological issues that might be facing someone who is being, arrested, for example, even of a violent crime, learning how to de-escalate the situation. And, when you look at the criminal justice system, it's filled with minorities and people of color. And as you know, historically, obviously, we have been adversely impacted. And so, of course, our numbers are higher in the criminal justice system. So I think we need to take a look at that. Why do we have such high bail for some of these crimes that really, truly aren't hurting other people? So there's a whole lot that we need to do across the board in terms of making sure that we have better relations. Because when you break it down, that's what it is. Making sure, listen, if everybody did unto others what you'd have them do unto you, we'd have a much better world.
Terri, we're going to talk about that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk about doing exactly what you're talking about. And how do you convince white cops that not everybody that is black is their enemy, or for that matter, an escaped slave? So stay with us.